All right, all right, all right. We're live. What's going on, Daniel?
Hey man, how's it going?
Just another busy day, just
Yeah, yeah.
living the dream. Well, I invited you on here. I'm glad you're able to make it. Investors Thrive Nation. This is a podcast from Daniel. He's flipping homes in East Cobb, and today we're just going to chat and find out, what got him into real estate, what's got him doing his thing, basically. Like, why have you decided to go? It's pretty much high end flips, right? That's like what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah, I would say it's high design, and then I've done a number of houses that are entry level, some are mid level, and some are seven-figure homes. So, just like to focus on doing good design with quality materials. I think that comes across as high end, but really it's I've had starter homes and I've had luxury homes. So,
High quality. I
I
like that. Sweet. Well, Investor Thrive Nation, thanks for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. And for people that are watching live right now, thanks for tuning in. If you have questions, ask your questions. And at the end of the podcast, we can answer them. Any questions you have for Daniel. And then also, Daniel, if you would like, you can share your social media stuff so people can reach out to you if they have any questions for you on how you're doing what you're doing. Is that cool?
that works.
Okay, so let's just dive right into it, man. So what got you into real estate? I know you were probably doing something else before flipping, right?
I was in banking for 10 years on the trading floor, so pretty fun time so from 2012 to just recently when I went full time real estate. But I got into real estate because I had kids, and so my wife and I were looking for a house, and I had always bought my primary residence as I was an analyst and kind of got out of college, but at some point, we wanted a yard. We wanted a good school system, and so East Cobb in Marietta is kind of the place where people go. But even after working in banking for a few years, I really couldn't afford anything other than a fixer-upper in the neighborhood that I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, we found the worst house in a great neighborhood and we totally gutted it. And that's kind of how it started. And then, I learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, along the way. But, I kept getting better with every house. And so we did our primary residence, this house I'm in right now. Then I bought my first actual flip investment property,
Mm-hmm.
had to go through evictions to get the tenants out. One guy I had to evict twice, and that's a different story for another time.
Well,
But
you got to tell us that story on here. You got to tell us that story sometime.
I was a nice guy and I was trying to let people like, hey, you need to either pay rent or move out. And one guy was basically the worst tenant. So I had him evicted. Judge
Mhm.
gave me the eviction order, but I was still trying to be nice. I was like, hey, man, I could come with the sheriff. Like, apparently evictions expire. So
Oh
literally, the
gosh.
sheriff came and said that if you don't let him back in, which was the judge's orders, right? The eviction was expired. Judge's orders, you have to let him back in. You're getting arrested. So I didn't want to go to jail. So I had to let him back in and then had to go through the entire eviction process again. But anyways, that property, we got everybody out right in literally like February 28th of 2020. So like March 1st, we started the demo and the construction. That was the beginning of COVID, right? I mean, literally it just started to
Were you
turn.
scared, bro? Were you scared when COVID hit and you had this house?
I was glad that people were out. So that was the main thing because it was a night. It took like 6, 7 months and thousands of dollars to get them all evicted. So I was like, finally, I got everybody out. I didn't know what the real estate market was going to do necessarily, but I figured, I do an okay flip, medium. I had no idea what I was doing in terms of flips.
Mhm.
And then once I was getting through construction, I had the drywall up. I was looking at comps and everything. The same person's name kept popping up as the agent for a lot of the best comps in the area. So I
Yeah.
looked call that agent. I said, hey, I see you doing a lot of business in this area and the houses are beautiful. So would you come and give me advice on mine? It turns out that he was the investor and the agent selling them. So
No.
he became like a mentor to me and he said, hey, you need to make sure you put in at least these level of materials, these levels of finishes. Don't go cheap, don't go laminate, don't go 99 cents a square foot stuff, go
Mhm.
quartz. And we ended up sending the highest comp for that property in the area. So people were using my house as a comp for other, wholesale deals, fix and flips. And so from there, I did a couple more deals. It was all during COVID, and obviously the market was appreciating, so we did really well on all of it.
Crush.
Uh, again, the market was really good, but I've averaged six figures on all my flips in the last few years. So
Feels good, doesn't it?
yeah, it feels good. A lot of them, they were all full guts though. So only just recently did I do my first flip that was literally cosmetic. I did new carpet, new paint, changed the light fixtures, the doorknobs, just basic stuff.
Light rehab.
Under contract. I think I bought it for 380 from a wholesaler. Put like 20 grand into it for the cosmetic stuff, and we just got under contract at 510. So that'll be yeah, after commissions and everything, probably like a $60,000-$70,000 profit for just a cosmetic deal.
Bro, and that's like, was it like a 3-month hold time or 4 months? How long did you hold on to it?
I mean, so the prior owner needed 30 days to move out of it, so we held it for a month. The actual construction of paint and carpets and whatever took about 30 days. And so we just went under contract last weekend. And so 3 weeks from now, so it'll be less than 90 days from closing to closing.
Dude,
So
that is amazing. And that's why wholesalers are so useful for us. Like I'm flipping right now, but also like we wholesale, but now we're keeping a lot because as a wholesaler, I would be like, look, I'm just trying to make 10 or 15 or 20. So that wholesaler probably made that and gave it to you, and you're going to make 60 with about a month of work, like of actual legit work. It's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that people really underestimate like networking, right? It's like I try to get to know every single wholesaler operating in my area, because they might have a deal at some point that, oh yeah, we did a deal like 3 years ago and now we're doing another deal, right? So the more people you know, obviously the better. But then at the same time, I make offers to wholesalers the same way like I make offers to, for sale by owners or some on the MLS, right? So the wholesaler initially, I think he was asking like 420 and I got him down to like 380. So he ended up scraping like $5,000 out of it, which is still great for him, for an assignment fee.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But, so
but it's great, especially if he couldn't sell it to anyone else. It's better to make nothing and make something than nothing.
Oh no, I just think I was the first one and I was the most aggressive. Like I jumped on it. I actually started with a low ball offer at 350, which I knew he wouldn't take. But like he started at 420, I went 350. We met somewhere in the middle, like 380.
Good job, man.
He still made a $5,000 assignment fee, which is nice. But it was still a good deal. And I'm looking at other deals that he's got as well. So it was a nice story. So that's the real estate journey. Started with my own, personal house. And now we're doing, I think if I close this will be the 5th deal I did in the last 12 months. And I'm hoping to do another 5 before the end of the year.
I think that's awesome, man, because as I started out wholesaling, and I'm teaching you like how to find those leads and stuff like that. But as a wholesaler, like you have to do more deals and you're getting like less, your assignment fees aren't always that big. They're like average of 15 to 20. But what you're doing is you're like, hey, I don't need to be doing 5 flips a month yet. Right. You're like, let me do 1 or 2, work my way up, and I'm making big spreads. Right. So that's awesome. And that's kind of what we've been doing too, is we've been sprinkling flips in with wholesales. Like we have a flip closing tomorrow that is 88K that we're making on it. And same situation as you. Bought it, carpet paint, listed, gone within 3 months, 90 days,
That's awesome. Yeah, listen, I love it when people are telling me that like, oh, they're doing like 20 deals a year, or 30 deals a year, 40 deals a year. I'm like, that's fantastic. And eventually I hope to be doing that many, but like sometimes you also got to ask, what are they making per deal? Like, I don't know that somebody's making my margins of 6 figures on average per flip. The next house that I have coming up, it's a big house. It's 6,000 square feet. We got it. The purchase price was $565, putting 300 into the rehab, but it'll sell for probably 1.2. And so I'll probably make 200,000 or 300,000 on that one. That's going to take 6 or 7 months total from closing to closing. But at the end of the day, it's still like a 6-figure win. So I would say people should focus on getting quality deals rather than just getting a large number of deals. Because there's something to be said about, scaling and volume. But sometimes I'd rather do, 1 deal and make $100,000 than do 3 deals and make $30,000. It's still a total dollars of profit, but it's fewer times you got to get financing. It's fewer times you got to send your painter to a house or your electrician or whatever else. So I try to focus on bigger tickets, even if that means fewer of them.
And I'm in agreement with you because, average wholesale fee for most people, it's like 15K. Some people in California, they're like at 70, right? It depends on the market you're in. But, but yeah, you do 5 or 10 wholesale deals a month. That's 5, 10 deals you have to take to title. You got to like make sure everything is going smooth. I don't know. Do you know who Jerry Norton is? Do you follow him at all? Like seen any of his YouTube videos?
Seems familiar. I've probably seen him around, but I don't actively follow him.
Yeah, it's all good. So he's one of my mentors, and he flips high luxury, like high end stuff in the millions, 2 millions, 3 millions. And I think his average he was telling me like on one flip he made like 2 million on a flip, right? So just look at that. Like, okay, you can be a wholesaler and you can do 10, 15 deals a month, or you can spend your whole year on one giant flip and then be done and be like, make more than you probably would have as like doing all that volume, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, so the big one that I'm working on right now could be 200 to 300,000. It's a lot of square footage. It's a lot of big ticket items, right? And it's going to be a 7-figure flip. So I hired a designer, I hired an architect, make sure that I'm not just drawing this in crayon and trying to think of things that I like. I want professional help. So between
Right.
agent, who's more like my mentor, he plugged me in with a lot of his teams, his architect, his designer. So this thing's gonna be sick. And I'd rather do a few of those. I'd rather do 2 or 3 of those, make a 500,000 a year, and be really well positioned than do 10, 15 deals where I'm scraping 30, 40, 50. Not that that's a place to start, but it's just my personal preference.
Yeah, and what you're saying, what I'm saying, it's not bad for anybody that does whatever model. I think it's risk tolerance, right?
Right.
Like you are willing. Some people wouldn't want to be holding on to a house at 500,000 and putting in 300. They might feel like that's really risky. But for you, you're like, hey, the reward is there, and I got to do like you said, maybe less work than 10, 15 deals to get that amount of money, like that profit. And I think you're positioning yourself really well, because if the market, they say it's cooling down, we'll see what happens. But your homes that are done with high quality, high end quality, like they're going to sell before, like faster, or going to be more, I guess, sought after than someone that does a crappy job, especially when the market cools. They're going to want the best houses.
I think so. I think, the things that I've been taught have been the 3 Ps, right? There's product, placement, and price, right? The price, you should be determined by your market. And so I won't spend too much time on that. Like, you obviously shouldn't overprice. Otherwise you're going to sit on the market. If you underprice, people are going to think there's something wrong with the home. So price in line with the comps. Placement is all about staging and photography, right? You see a lot of people that use their iPhone and have an agent do iPhone photos, and those are terrible, right? And that's just not going to excite anybody when they see the house. Or they do cheap virtual staging. Like, you're selling, the way my agent says is, you're selling more than just sticks and bricks, right?
Yeah.
You need the idea of the home, and that comes with staging, that comes with photography, with placement. And so we've got a really good staging company, and I'll be honest, it's probably one of the most expensive staging companies. On this cosmetic one, I spent 4,200 on staging, which is more than I spent on paint, which is more than I spent on carpet, right? The
Wow.
staging alone is 4,200, but it looks incredible. We had so many showings, right?
Is that the one that you just listed? You just told me that is under contract?
Yeah, exactly.
That thing looks awesome, man. That
Yeah.
thing looks really good.
So sorry, this is my 3-month-old in the background, if you can hear.
I
Um,
I actually can't hear, so it's all good.
but product is the biggest thing, right? And for me, I like the total gut jobs, because when you're flipping a house, it's hard to decide. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep the roof. I'm gonna change a couple of the windows, but I'm gonna paint the cabinets, right? When you go kind of, it's not new, but it's old, but it's been painted. Those are the hardest ones, because you got to decide, if I'm gonna spend $1, am I gonna get it back? Is there gonna be $2 of return on that? But when you do a full gut, man, you're not saving the flooring, you're not saving the kitchen or the bathrooms or anything. You're going to change the roof, you're going to change the windows. It makes it easier to budget too, because you can do a line item by line item. There's no surprises, because you've already budgeted for a roof. Even if there weren't any leaks, to get that top dollar, to get that product, to get that high quality finish, you're going to need a new roof. You're going to need a new windows. You're not just going to paint the old wooden windows. You're going to go with quartz instead of level 1 granite that you see sometimes people do. So I think it's just a lot easier mentally when you go for a full gut, because there's no surprises. You just budget for brand new everything, brand new HVAC and water heater. Like, unless it's been changed in the last couple of years, buyers just want the new water heater. It costs you $1,000, but it's part of the entire package of a basically brand new home, right? So that's what I'm talking about when it comes to like the top product.
And that's interesting, because you're right. Like, when I was just looking at a house. Me and my wife is from Canada, and we were looking at a home that we're possibly potentially going to buy. Or we're always looking, right? Because we want a vacation home in Canada. And when you see that new water heater on there, or the new AC or whatever, you're like, ooh, it's nice. You feel like you're getting like literally a brand new house, even though it was built in the 50s or 70s or whenever.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's a lot easier when, you're doing like your seller's disclosures, right? new HVAC, new windows, new water heater, new electrical, new plumbing, new electrical panel, right? I've had to replace concrete driveways. And when you have a product that is done well, right?
Mhm.
It stands head and shoulders above everybody else. So like you said, even if the market does rebalance or cool off or whatever, buyers are going to gravitate to something that's turnkey and that's
Yeah.
done well, and I can rep to them that yes, all of this is brand new and is warranted, and if there's ever an issue, here's a company that did it. They'll stand behind their work.
Yeah, there's power to that for sure. And I think I'm excited for you because I think you're well positioned with the skill set you have. And another thing is by going for those complete gut jobs, I'm sure your competition to get those deals is lower. I mean, I'm sure there's flippers that are like don't want that, right? They're like, oh, that's scary. Or have you kind of noticed that maybe by going for like bigger rehabs, like there's less competition on those?
Yeah, and I think especially in the East Cobb neighborhood. So for anybody watching who's not familiar, you know East Cobb Marietta is a really family-friendly neighborhood. It's got some of the top schools in the state, and so the starting point for a lot of flips out here in the suburbs, I mean, a fixture goes for 400,000 or 500,000 plus, right? So that already eliminates a lot of the competition because the folks working inside the city of Atlanta, you know, a fixture there might be 150 to 250 to 300 depending on the location and the size. So just at a higher price point, there's fewer people swimming with these kinds of entry level tickets, and then it's a higher rehab on top of it, right? So all in investment can be easily north of 600,000 total, right?
Yeah.
So on average, we're not talking about your cosmetic lipstick job. So I think that by itself already eliminates a lot of the competition. And then, you know, there are fewer wholesalers operating up here. There are fewer flippers operating. There's people who will buy a house even as a fixer just to get into the school system, and they'll fix it up over time. So I think there's less competition for a number of reasons. But I think if you can find your niche in this area, I think I've done really well so far.
That's awesome, man. And you know, I grew up there. Grew up at
Yeah.
Pope. I went to Pope High School right off Shalford Road.
Oh yeah. That's like 7 minutes north of me. Yeah.
It's crazy, man. Small world, right?
Yeah, I mean it's crazy because I think one of the best things investors can do for themselves is really understand their markets, right? And the reason I bring this up is because in this local market, you know this, you know the difference between a house that's in the Walton School District versus in the Wheeler School District. I mean, literally the next street over, the same floor plan, the same age, the same condition. That value can be anywhere between $50,000 and $100,000 difference because it's in a different school district. Now, Wheeler by itself is a great school, but that there's so much more buyer demand for Walton. So just knowing your pockets and knowing your niche and knowing what are the driving factors for that neighborhood is I think is what, you know, new buyers and new investors should be focusing on.
You know, man, I love the data. That's data you're diving into, right? Like you're trying to find out, you know, understand your market. I was interesting. My buddy that I grew up with in Georgia, two of them came and visited me 2 weeks ago, like a couple weeks ago, and they were talking. We were talking about the schools that we went to, right? Because we grew up and went to Pope. You got Laster, got Walton, and we were like, I didn't really realize it, but going to those schools, those were really great schools in that area, right? So exactly what you're saying is like I took that for granted. I didn't know, but it's true. As an investor, you're like, hey, these areas are money because people love the schools. So if I can get something in this area, it's going to be able to sell quicker than in the Wheeler district. Just like what you said, I don't think a lot of investors think like that. So how did you kind of get that mindset if you're of knowing that those are the schools that demanded the highest, I guess, return?
I just looked at who was charging the highest prices, right? If you looked at, you know, some of the things, if you just pulled up the MLS locally here and you saw one house that's in Walton, one house that's in Wheeler, without knowing which of the school districts it fell in, you'd be like, oh, this house is $100,000 cheaper. I should go after that one, right? And like, oh, this one's $100,000 more expensive. Nobody's going to buy that one. And then it ends up selling faster than one in Wheeler. And you start diving into it, and it just kind of becomes a very apparent pattern that people want that school district, right? And so if you're someone who, so like the cosmetic one that I'm doing right now, I'll be honest, there's a big power tower right behind it. It's kind of
Yeah.
got a grade, and because I didn't do a lot of the systems updates, it was just a very cosmetic refresh. We only listed it at 500. We got a couple offers right at 510, so we priced it appropriately. And even though we didn't do the full gut job, we knew that the buyer for that house was someone who wanted to be in the Walton School District but couldn't afford $6, $7, $800,000 home, right? So by knowing your school districts, by knowing the driving factors of why people want to buy in that area, you can overcome things like power lines or steep grade or very little yard, because that's not the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
If I sunk $100,000 into that rehab, I probably would have been about the same profit margins, right? I would have spent $100,000 more, but the house would have only sold for $100,000 more. And so that's what we decided, just to go with the cosmetic rehab, and then let an owner occupant who wants to be in that school district kind of take it wherever they want to go after the fact.
That's so cool, man. And I remember you talking to me about this. That was like your direct thought process, and it came true, right?
Yeah.
It really happened. What you said happened. That's so cool. And I think it's really important. Most of the people that watch this are wholesalers, right? They want to find the deals for the flippers. And as you're kind of in the flipping process, you're already doing that. And I'm showing you how to find those deals so you can source them yourself, right? Because you definitely can use, wholesalers, networking, Sunday, different platforms. That's how we get a lot of our deals. But it's also, you can get deals from, targeting those areas and marketing. But that's really cool that, you figured this out. And I just want to say to the wholesalers or flippers, whoever's watching this, you need to know the data and the information in your market, just like Daniel's saying, because you could be talking to a seller who wants a certain amount, and you could pass and be like, oh, they want too much. But if you understand your market, maybe they're right in the money and you can make a deal, you can flip it or you can wholesale it. You really got to know your info.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, it's so interesting, because a lot of the deals that I picked up from wholesalers, I'm gonna be honest with you, are probably deals that were mispriced, because the wholesaler didn't know that, like, for example, the house that is the cosmetic one, it's right on the border. I mean, like, the last street of the Walton School District, right? The next street over is Wheeler. And so maybe they knew or didn't know, which school district it fell into, and they underpriced the house, right? And so when they sent it out, I was like, holy guacamole, these are the stats. What they're asking, mine. Just I'll take it. I walked it 30 seconds, make sure the house wasn't falling over. I was like, yeah, this is mine. I'll figure out the financing later. And so I just, whatever it is you're doing, if you're wholesaling and you're talking to a seller and they want too much, maybe there's a reason that they think that a house is worth that much. Look into it. Are they in the right school district? Are they on a golf course and you just don't know that you're in a golf community or whatever it is? Maybe they are asking too much for it, or maybe someone asking for 400 when that house really should be 600, and suddenly you've got a windfall profit. But the more you know as a wholesaler going into it, I think the better prepared you'll be to either walk away from the deal or jump all over it.
Dude, and you got a great competitive advantage because you're like zoned in, locked in on an area, and you know that, and you're getting to know it extremely well. A downfall of a lot of wholesalers, including like one of what we do, is we do nationwide, right? So we target multiple areas, hoping we can get leads at cheaper costs, which is true. If you target another area, it gets a little bit more expensive. But with pay per click, we target the like different states.
Yeah.
So if we get something like, for example, in East Cobb, and if I didn't know the area like you do, and I know, we wouldn't know. Like, we would think a seller, if you just look at Zillow, you'd be like, oh man, they're completely crazy, right? But yeah. So I think there's a lot to learn from your experience in this podcast, that being really niche, or knowing an area, specific area really well is powerful. It's super powerful.
Yeah, I can't be all things to all people. And honestly, I've got friends that are in the real estate business and they send me deals, good deals, honestly, like in Northeast Atlanta or south of the airport or Southeast Atlanta, and some of those pockets that are really like growing quickly. But that's like over an hour from me. I can't imagine like traveling to the job site to do that, to manage the projects and the labor. So try to focus on one niche and be really good at one thing. And then once I feel like I am, then I can kind of expand from there. And so, I don't know, maybe nationally would be great. If I could build the pipeline of national wholesale deals, I absolutely would. Maybe that's the next step after I take over East Cobb.
Dude, that's the goal. And by the way, you can leverage all like these friends and these people you're networking with that are sending you those deals. If you can get someone in your company that might be like focused on trying to dispo those out, you might be able to make some wholesale deals and be like, yeah, I'll take this one on and just wholesale it, get it under contract. And that's what we do a lot. People will JV with us, and we'll either JV the deal with them or we'll buy it. But there's power in having the relationship that you do, and taking those deals and connecting them and making making an assignment fee.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love actually. It's funny. One of the things I think is underutilized is networking with agents. Because people see as agents as like their competition, right?
Yeah.
Really, like they should be your partners, because if an agent knows that somebody's thinking about listing or selling, they'll, what's the word, bird dog it for you, right?
Pocket listings is what we say. They got pocket listings.
They got pocket listings, and you're like, hey, if I make an offer on this, before it hits the market, do you think your seller wants to accept? And the agent, their incentive is to get a deal done. So if their seller is happy and they can get it done quickly, hey, maybe they're underpricing it by 50 or 60 grand. You don't know, or maybe they'll take 50 or 60 grand less just to get the deal done. So I would reach out with agents.
Dude, I mean, exactly what you're saying is what we try to do. We try to connect with agents, network with as many people as possible, because, we've done deals with agents where, with pocket listings, or they'll have a house listed and they've taken bad pictures, and we'll make an offer, and then we'll wholesale it, and knowing like, hey, they just didn't do the best job at, marketing this property. Right.
Yeah.
So, no, that's exactly true. I mean, that's so true. Like, a lot of people go into this business and they're like, let me spend a ton of money like on marketing. It's like, hey, if you just network and you do a little here and there, and are, like you said, if you were to reach out to every agent in East Cobb and you were like the go-to guy, like, hey, I buy houses and I'll literally close on them within a week, like, you're going to get deals.
Oh yeah. And, again, networking with other wholesalers too, because, I'm still new at the wholesaling part. So, I feel like, for example, there was a house a couple streets over that I saw, like, I thought was maybe a moving vehicle, or like they're just, either buying furniture or selling furniture. I didn't know exactly what was happening, but I knew it was old folks that lived there. The house was older, and I turned it to one of my wholesale buddies. I was like, hey man, can you go run this down for me? Like, if you can get it under contract, I'll pay you an assignment fee, whatever, 5-10 grand. And then we both get a deal. Like, he's the expert in negotiating and calling and, the scripts, and I'll get there myself eventually. But for right now, I was like, man, I saw this deal, and I'm not afraid to turn it over to this wholesaler because he and I have a good working relationship. If he can get it under contract for me, then I know he's going to show it to me first, and that we can do a deal. And if I can't do it and he still wants to wholesale it to somebody else, he's got investors that can, he can dispo too.
That's awesome. So you're like, hey buddy, track this bad boy down for me.
Yeah. Why not? Because, they're the experts at it, and they do a lot of deals. And, I've never seen people like try to, we have VAs and we have cold callers and we have skip tracing. And I feel like nobody has ever thought about, hey, here's a house, it's on my block. I know the old folks that are living are thinking about, moving, maybe not. Go track it down. Go bird dog it for me, because I'll buy it. Here's the price that I'll buy it. Anything you get below this price, that's your spread. So if I'm willing to pay $400,000 for a property and you can get it for $200,000, great. I'll pay your $200,000 assignment fee, no problem, because I told you what I wanted to pay for it.
That's
so
good. And I know a new wholesaler, experienced or new, would love that. They'd be like, oh, you're telling me if I can get this house for this price, you'll buy it? Okay, let me just go try and negotiate it.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good move. And
I'm telling you the buy box or anything. I'm telling you this specific address. Here's a photo of it. Go and get it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's really cool. Well, it sounds like you got a good strategy going, and you joined the Investor Thrive Mastermind, and I'm trying to give you as much I guess help, or I don't even know the word. I'm going to provide value. Yeah, mentorship and value, because I want to help you succeed, man. Because I really believe like you can use the different platforms that we use, and you can use leverage your relationships to get deals. But I also believe that with targeting those specific areas with either mailers, cold calling, and just pulling those lists in the area, you're going to be able to get some deals out of there.
Yeah, absolutely. I literally the reason I haven't dug into it more is right now my hands are full with 3 flips. I got 3 kids, but also got 3 flips right now, and they all should be done within like 4, 5, 6 weeks. And then I am cracking that blueprint open, baby. I've got list pull, cold callers, everything. So it's gonna be a great summer, because it's gonna be a ton of learning for me. I know I've got you guys as a resource, and Sean, and so I'm looking forward to it. And I gotta put these projects to bed first, close them, make my cash, and then hit the ground running on the next set of deals.
I love it. And Sean, you said Sean, have you talked to Sean Hayes?
I haven't, but I've seen him active a lot. I saw on the deal analysis earlier today he was talking. So I've heard him, I've seen him work, but I haven't spoken to him directly.
Dude, you should reach out to him when you get some time. He's a great resource because we went to Pope and we know a ton of, not only do we work in there, but we know a ton of agents in the area that we could connect you with that that specifically do East Cobb, in those specific school districts. So, we can connect you to some people in there that you might already even know. But like one of our buddies is named Ross Hester. They got like a brokerage called the Hester Group or something like that. Have you heard of that?
I know that group. Yeah.
Yeah. So his Ross went to high school with him, and his dad, I think his dad owns the brokerage or something. So we'll have to put you in, unless you're already in contact, but maybe I'm sure they come across some deals that they might be able to send your way.
Yeah, well, one of the things I do is, like I said, I see, for example, a house I'm working on right now. It's in a really nice subdivision, and I see somebody else that just listed a flip there. They listed it at like 630, right in line with the comps. And I talked to the agent, and she's really cool. And she's like, "Oh yeah, we actually are under contract, not at 630 or 675, and we just appraised." So it's like, "Oh wow, well I got this other flip that I'm working on right now, and it's." If you guys appraise at 675, nothing personal, but my house is better than yours. I opened up.
Yeah.
I know the layout of all these houses; they're all the same. And so you guys kept these walls. I opened up these walls. So my flow is better. My floor plan. So if you guys close at 675, I'm listing at 699. And just having those relationships and that information is crucial because it's market intelligence. And it's about, like I said, going back, is are you priced appropriately relative to the comp? And so it's just. I think we're saying the same thing over and over, but it's a huge relationship business.
Well, I love it, man, because this whole podcast, we could sum it up. We've hit on some really great stuff, but if you don't understand your market, you need to understand it, because you could be leaving a lot of money on the table as a wholesaler or as a flipper if you don't understand like your market and how to price stuff. So yeah. It's been awesome, man. Well, I'm here to help you out, and I'm glad that, we have this working relationship, and I'm excited for your growth. Let me ask you this before we end. Do you have one nugget you could drop to Investor Thrive Nation for people to implement? Like, do you have one thing you'd like to tell the people out there?
Yeah, I would say if you're out there and you're thinking about, how do I do this or how do I do that, you got to learn by doing. I can tell you about swimming. You can listen to podcasts about swimming. You can go and network with the best swimmers in the world. But until you get your butt in the water and start, even if it's a doggy paddle or just floating in place, you will not learn how to swim. So go out, learn by doing. You'll make mistakes. You'll learn along the way and find mentors. But you gotta learn by doing. That's the only way that you're really going to grow in this business.
Bro, I love that so much. I was listening to a podcast earlier today about this girl who just said, she would prefer boldness, being bold, over intelligence. She says it's both important, but bold people, they just go for it. They take action, right? Just like you're saying. And intelligent, not saying that you can't be both, but intelligent people like to think about it, analyze. But the people who are bold that just go out and do it, they sometimes accomplish more because they're like, I got to go learn. And having a mentor, I've taken a lot of coaching. What they don't really make you do the actions. They kind of guide you and kind of coach you along the way, but you got to go do it. You got to go swim.
Got to go swim, baby.
And I love it, man. Well, hey, that's great advice. We do have one person that asked a question. I don't know if they're still watching, but maybe we could both tackle this question together. The Facebook user, the name of who asked doesn't come through, but they said, what do you think the wholesale industry will be like in the coming months? So we could even say, what do you think the real estate industry will look like in the coming months? You want to take a crack at that one, Daniel?
Sure. So I think that on the selling side, right? I think that the higher quality product at any price point, right, will always stand out. And so people will always have a flight to quality, that if the market gets a little shaky, they're always going to say, well, if I'm going to buy a house, I'm going to buy the one that has the new roof, the new windows, the new HVAC, that they didn't cut corners, right? So I would say that is something that I try to use as a buffer for my own business. But as far as the wholesale industry, I think that a lot of folks have gotten into the real estate industry in the last 2 years for a lot of good reasons, right? But I think that if they don't have an actual business model, a robust business model where they understand their markets, where they have solid lead gen, solid mentorship. And I think a lot of people are going to find that if they had success, it was because the market was hot, right? And people were just buying everything. And as the market cools, you're really going to see the difference between treating this like a business and running it methodically and having a robust business model versus people who are just kind of doing it, sort of doing it, getting lucky. And those are the people that are probably going to exit the industry if things get a little bit tougher and the lead gen is going to be harder and conversion is going to be harder. So I think that a cooling market is going to really differentiate those people who have a solid business model, one that can withstand, tougher times, and those people who just got lucky because the market was so hot.
I like that. I like everything you said on that, and I agree. I think if the market does cool, as wholesalers, as we try to find the deals for the flippers and give them to you, you just have to price. You have to get them lower, right? If the deals go down, if people are willing to pay less, then you got to adjust. And if you don't have your systems and your processes dialed in, it's probably going to be a little bit harder for you. But that's why we're here. We're here to educate and help. And I appreciate you coming on this podcast with me, Daniel. This has been fun.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Do you want to drop like your Facebook, Instagram, anything where people can reach you if they want to get a hold of you? I don't
Yeah.
know if you like to you want to network like that.
My Instagram is my first name, last name. So at Daniel Rybin. I put more of my real estate stuff on there. It's not really dedicated for that. So you might see pics of like my barbecue and my kids in my backyard, but in between all of that, you'll see some updates and stories on the flips that I'm working on. And so if anybody wants to reach out through Facebook, whatever, just hit me up. I'm happy to chat.
Awesome. So anybody, if you get a deal in East Cobb, Georgia, in the Walton, Lassiter, or Pope district, school district, hit him up. This is your guy. He'll buy. You're gonna buy it, right?
Buying it.
Right. And I know I said we're gonna end, but I do have one last question.
Sure.
You get hard money. Where do you get your private money? Do you use your own money or do you raise it?
So I have done historically, private lender was a former coworker of mine where they will fund 100% of the purchase price of the home and then I'll fund the rehab. So that kind of gives them comfort that like I'm investing my own money into it. And then I've done a couple hard money deals recently, which is fine, but I'd always prefer private money over obviously. So for me, I used to work at a bank, and so a lot of my real estate stuff was under wraps. It was my side hustle, and the two worlds didn't really mix. But now that I've gone full time, I've used LinkedIn and a lot of the professional networking platforms to really display my business, right? And then that's really actually led to a lot more private money conversations of, honestly, all of my rich, well-off folks who are my coworkers that say, hey, listen, these are the profits that I'm making. These are the homes that I'm building and renovating. And if you guys would like to invest, here are my terms. And you have people that are like, yeah, dude, if you're looking for private money, let us know. We've got money to put to work. So I think I'm going to try to stick towards private money as much as I can.
Yeah, always stick to private money you can get because it's less expensive. And what are you trying to get your people, like 8 to 10%, 12%? Do you have like an range where you want to get them in for the
pay 10%, and they're secured with the mortgage and the documents, obviously, with the closing attorneys. So there's a proper mortgage, there's a proper note attached. It's 10%. But the beauty is, with a lot of my guys, we've done so many deals that I'll pay interest either quarterly, semi-annually, or if I think it's going to be a fast flip, just at the end of the flip, just as a balloon repayment, principal and interest.
Love it, bro. I mean, you save on the points and you get a good interest. Everyone's happy because they're making money on their money instead of just sitting there. They're making like 10%. So it's sweet.
I mean, I've got one guy that's got $1 million out to me right now. So he's literally making 6 figures just in the interest expense I'm paying to him. So he's wealthy, but he's not that wealthy where he can just bat an eye at 100 grand of interest. So he considers it like a meaningful income stream for him as well. So he's happy, I'm happy, and we've built a great working relationship. And I think that's something that everybody should try to replicate.
Hey man, when we get there, we'll be being the hard money lenders, the private money, because that's where it's at. Those guys just, they dish it out and they just get paid interest. It's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, and I know we're getting a little side topic here, but like, I know a lot of wealthy people, because of the appreciation of their home, they've got home equity lines of 3, 4, 5, 600,000 plus that they can borrow at, even with today's interest rates. They can
6%, right?
at 4 or 5%, and they can lend it to me at 10%, secured by real estate, first lien, and they can scrape 600-700 basis points on $1 million. 70 grand, easy, no problem, side income. So there's a lot of folks out there that I think that if they are, if they have the right network and they have the right folks, that they shouldn't be shy. Like, hey, if you guys have cash to put to work, let's do a deal.
Dude, I love it, man. We just did the same thing. We're in a deal with $0 of our own money because we reached out to our networks. And this might be for some people a little higher level if they're just wholesaling, but this is what this is what happens. You get into deals, then you start flipping, then you start keeping, then like you start lending your own money. There's levels of this, and it's exciting.
Love it.
All right, brother. Well, it's been a pleasure, and we're gonna keep working together. And anyone that needs my man in East Cobb, you know where to go. Daniel, right there.
Thanks, Nate. Good to see you, man.
Later, brother.